Okay, so I had all my user waypoints for my area demonstration on a different computer, not on this one. I had changed computers due to audio quality. So I had to put those in off camera real quick. All right, so let's say we wanted to use the Garmin 530 for area orientation. Maybe your school has certain defined areas and you fly in this one or the other, and you can at least deconflict amongst your schoolmates about which areas are in use, etc. Um, so what I did is I created basically four corners of an area that's southeast of Monroe Executive using the Charlotte VUR. And you can use lat longs, you can use fixes, whatever, and you can end up saving those in a flight plan. But let's show you how to create waypoints first. So we're on the nav chapter. Let's go to the waypoint chapter, and here's how you create waypoints. So we have to enable our cursor, and let's call this first point AA. Okay, so right now AA is already a user waypoint that was created, but I can create another one called AAA, and you'll basically go down and select a radial or two cross radials. It'll actually compute cross radials and only give you distance from one. But so let's say we wanted the Charlotte 140 for 50 miles. We put in CLT. So the one enter, and then 140. So small button right, big button right, small button left, big button right, and then small button right, 140 radial, and then enter, and similarly 50 miles. So 5, so 50 miles. Okay, and let's create that. So that's the AAA. If we wanted to use that one. Okay, so that's how I create them. Now, as it turns out, I had created 4 box points: AA, AB, AC, and AD, like area. Okay, and so we'll go back to our flight plan, and let me get back to our nav chapter, and bump up the range scale. Okay, and go back to our nav chapter, actually flight plan. We can delete this approach into Charlotte Monroe Executive by hitting the clear key and remove that. But we got EQY. Now let's type in AA. And it asks you if, because that's a user waypoint, you accept it. Let's type in AB and on and on and on. Accept it. And I made all these points previously, so AC, user waypoint, accept, and then AD. Accept. And the last one, we need to close off the box, so we do have to put AA in one more time. Oops. And unfortunately, it doesn't allow you to keep stuff like that. So AA in one more time. All right. User waypoint, hit accept. All right. And we'll also end with KEQY, so we at least have that field as a destination. KEQY, Monroe Executive. Okay. Now we have nothing. The box right now is going on a 233 course, runway 23. Okay, so it's in this pseudo direct mode where it's going direct to is not on part of our flight plan. So when that happens, you'll notice that there is nothing on, and even when we're out of the OBS key, there's nothing on our flight plan because it has this pseudo flight plan which only has one point in it right now. that it's going to, and that's runway 23 at Charlotte or at Monroe. Okay, so if we go direct to any of the points, let's say the first point on the box, activate cursor. Let's go direct to AA. So direct button, enter. Look at that. There's our little box that we just made, and we can go direct to these points. Now they're all defined off as Charlotte, which is up here somewhere, the Charlotte VOR, but this is in fact the area that we just programmed into the computer or into the system. Okay. So yeah, and by the way, hitting the clear key declutters. Okay, so if you want a lot of information, that's the standard. But every time you hit the clear key, the clear button, it'll declutter one level until finally you have nothing left but your waypoints and active waypoints. Okay. All right. So here we are. Now we're actually not going to any specific point in this area. We just need to enter the area. So we could head, southwest right now, and let's do that and enter the area. Okay. So this is for area orientation. If let's say the AB and AC leg was one that was really important, you didn't want to go any further south than that, and you wanted to know how far away you were laterally from that leg at all times, we could do that. We just go to the highlight the AC leg, and here's a trick. We can menu key activate leg, or we can do the double direct press, which does the same thing as activating the leg to that point with using the previous point. So AB to AC activate. And the cool thing about this, if it's desired, is that right now we are 10 miles from this border. If it's really important, you know exactly how far you are away from that border. We're 16.7 miles from this fix down here, but we're only 10 miles laterally from the border right there. Okay. All right. The other thing I like to talk about with this that might be cool to use is marking for a ground reference and creating user waypoint with marking. All right. So we're in the map page, which is the second page in the nav chapter. And the way we get to the cursor, and this was that third reason, third use of these buttons down here. First is page sequencing. Second is input device. The third is it actually scrolls a cursor. And how do we get this cursor activated? Well, just like all the other ones, you press and we get an active cursor. So we have something blinking. So if we want to stop it blinking, we press the cursor again. Okay. And now we're back to normal. Okay. But with something blinking, especially this cursor, these buttons now turn into scrolling devices, right? And where you can scroll and get this button to go up and down and left and right. But it's really kind of a clunky interface. We're so used to swiping and pinching and scrolling and stuff like that with our fingers on a touch screen that this interface is going to seem absolutely Neanderthal to you. But in any event, it is what it is. So let's say you're flying over a point that you want to mark right now. It's a water tower. It's something important. Maybe you see an accident. Maybe a plane went down. You saw it, and you want to mark it for exact reference later. As you head back. So what you do is press the cursor, okay, and immediately that cursor pops up and it stays stationary at that lat longs where you pressed it. Okay, you can see that our mileage away from that point is slowly increasing, and all we have to do is hit the enter key, and we can save that point that you just created, and it uses the default next available user point, and we just save it. Okay. So where is that point being saved? Well, let's go to the, sorry, my cursor's still blinking. So I'm going to press the push cursor button to get it out of there. So now I can navigate with my chapters. Go to the waypoint page. Here's our user waypoints. And sure enough, the first user waypoint that you hit comes up. All right. You can also, if you hit the direct key, right now, the user 0003 waypoint comes up. You can actually activate that and go direct to that point. All right. Right now we're 1 mile from it. And let's say you want to do a practice to turn around a water tower or something. You fly over the water tower, mark it, and then fly around the water tower, and your radius should be the cross track error, or I'm sorry, the distance. The distance from that water tower should stay constant, right, as you do a circle around a point. So the other possible use for that is to maybe mark an emergency landing field or something like that. And speaking of emergency landing fields, let's say you did mark one right there. Let's say the 003 user waypoint is an emergency field. You could add that to the flight plan. So go to the flight plan, highlight the cursor, scroll down to KEQY, and we could put in 00003 just to put that in the flight plan. If that is literally a point that is important to flying in that area, okay, maybe it's a georef too, possibly, but you could have that point on the flight plan for easy access. And I went too far there, didn't I? All right, 003. So that's that waypoint. I just added it. Let's go back to activating that AB to AC leg. So we're still in the area, and here's our emergency field or whatever it may be, maybe a lake or something like that. But it might mess with, if you like a nice, clean, crisp, clean area boundaries, that'll mess with it because it'll draw a line to and from. But you know, that it is what it is. So if we had to fly direct to, let's say that was a field that is good, we lost an engine, and we know that that's a really good landing spot because it's flat and no stones or rocks. So go to your flight plan, dauber down to 003, direct, activate. Okay, now we're going direct. And then you could, let's say you know from previous experience or previous briefing that field, the best is a north-south entry. Then you could simply just put in maybe north-south runway, and sure enough, that gives you a little bit of SA where that stuff is. Oops, wrong thing. So hit the heading, turn left, and back to the field. Obviously, you're looking outside right now for an emergency field, but you know what's cool about that is, well, geez, how far away am I from this point that's a really good landing? Well, right now we're 7 miles away, and you take a good guess of your glide ratio and stuff like that. Am I going to make this? Am I going to make this field? So you have a nice, more precise, other than the Mark 1 eyeball, distance away. Okay, as well as cross track from that purple line. So, all right. So that's that for area aids. Any questions? Let's go to the VFR cross country part. This is the last part that I wanted to talk about. So let's. Oh, there was another thing. We could save this entire flight plan by hitting the menu key and copy flight plan, and it's going to copy it to the first available flight plan location, or you can choose a flight plan location. Now, I already used 10, but let's say your Part 61 school, all the flight plans 10 and above are, you know, area nav aids and area aids and stuff like that, or cross countries that are kind of standard for the school or something. So you just save it to let's say plan 11, and sure enough, we save that. If we go to that flight plan catalog page, and sure enough, there it is, KEQY to KEQY with those fixes in there. All right, so let's call this one up out of memory and activate the flight plan. Okay, this one is basically Monroe to Grand Strand, Myrtle Beach, but we're going to go to Darlington, KUDG. All right, so and let's go direct Huston right now. Okay. Oops. Back to the flight plan. So let's get rid of all these guys below Warner. Warner, I know, is a feeder fix into Darlington, but we're going to input KUDG. bars TU, D, and then G. There's Darlington. Enter. Okay. So we've got our Huston, Chesterfield, Warner, and KUDG, and that's along Victor 259 here in North and South Carolina. Okay, so with our flight plan, let's take a look and make sure that it is what it is. We got what we want. Let's get God to climb up a little bit so we can see all of it. Sure enough, started off at Monroe, Huston, Chesterfield, Warner, and then Darlington. Okay, and that's all looking good. Let's intercept the Huston and Chesterfield leg as we proceed into Darlington. Huston and Chesterfield, we use the double direct hotkey to activate the Huston and Chesterfield leg. And there it is. Now it's activated, no longer going direct to Huston, but we're intercepting this leg too. Hit the nav button so our little computer here will calculate an intercept. Okay, so let's look at the KUDG, what we'd want to put in there. Well, we can use the same technique we used at Monroe for just giving yourself situational awareness and of the runway outline, extended center line, and distance away from KUDG. All right, so let's input. Oops, sorry. So let's select a procedure, and it's going to be into KUDG. And sure enough, that is our destination airport right now. It's the bottom one on the flight plan. Let's say we're going to do the RNAV 05, and we're going to do we can do vectors. Well, let's do vectors because that's probably what you would do. You wouldn't do one of the feeder fixes, which is kind of an instrument thing to do. So we do vectors. Vectors to final, and all that does is give you the final approach fix and the runway. Just two fixes are going to get loaded, and if we activate it, we're going to proceed direct to the final fix. Okay, so UMAJ is the final fix, and that's where we're going to get direct to. Okay, so sure enough, by activating it, it told us we're going direct to UMAJ and runway 05. All right, this message arriving at Waypoint no longer applies because we were up here arriving at one of the other ones. Okay, so now we're heading direct to UMAJ. It should be turning right here slowly, but it's not. Okay, it's a little confused. Sometimes that happens. Depending on where you are, we've gone a little bit past, I think, the UMAJ point. So we're gonna head southwest to get ourselves lined up a little better. But nonetheless, we can use the same tricks, right? So, maybe it's because we're in suspend mode. That might have happened. Okay, so yeah, we did pass. We passed probably the extended center line of runway 5 and went into suspend mode. So that's one of the instrument isms for the Garmin 530s. That suspend mode, which is not too much unlike the OBS mode. So same button. All right, so into Darlington, runway 05, we'll press the OBS. That is our active waypoint. So if we press the OBS button, well, that's not what we want, but it's because our CDI isn't lined up properly. So let's get that to 050 inbound course. Left is less. There we go. 050 inbound course, and that's looking pretty good. We haven't lost UMAJ as a fix, but it's not active either. Okay. So let's head south now. Left to south, and we'll gradually work into a fix in an approach there. So we could do a final. Let's see, Darlington is basically it's a 200-foot elevation airport. So with runway 05 right now we're 25 miles away, but as that ticks down, we can when we're, let's say 3 miles away, we want to be 900 feet above the field, plus the 200 feet field elevation. 3 miles away, we'd be at 1,100 feet. And these are good numbers to know as you're coming down in for the straight in. We could select, if you want to do an overhead entry, we'd fly for the overhead entry, and you have all the distances from the extended runway center line for calling it too. So you'll call your 10-mile call based off of this distance. Etc. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, this 45 entry we would probably climb up, fly up here, and then get the 45 entry, and then 2 left-hand turns for coming in. One thing, and I'll slow it down, is kind of in closing. So we're heading into Darlington, but you do have some other things that are. We all have special tools now with ForeFlight and other stuff that's on the iPad. So this GWiz device, some of the functionality is kind of transitioned to the things we like best, the swiping screens and iPads and stuff. But you still have frequencies and other things that are available to you that you don't have to dial them in, or you can, if you do lose your iPad or something, you're not totally at a loss. Okay, so let's go to the Waypoint page, and KUDG is the active destination runway. So sure enough, now I was just doing this previously, so they're already in there. We could just flip flop the ASOS, but let's say we want to do center and departure. We'd highlight the cursor, go down to the departure frequency and 18.6, and so that goes in a standby window. Hit the active cursor, and let's say we wanted to put center in the standby window as the next frequency. So 18.6 is current right now with this center as a standby. Or you go up to 19.5, put that in the standby. Okay, flip flop, and then put Unicom in the active, and then flip flop again. So we have AWAS and Unicom active and standby right there. Alternatively, like there is no ILS, I don't think, at Darlington, or maybe there. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think they have an ILS. No, they don't have an ILS at Darlington. But for instance, let's say the Chesterfield VOR. So, oops, sorry. Let's go back to Waypoint. Intersection NDB VOR, Chesterfield VOR. Well, the Chesterfield VOR frequency, if you didn't have a chart in front of you, that's 108.2. We can put that in the scratch pad and then and then flip flop. Obviously, I just did this in practice. So there is some cool tools available for you. And likewise, if there is an ILS, like back at Monroe, there is an ILS. You can select that ILS frequency. Let's see. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it. Let me go back and see how we're doing on our flight. Hit the space bar. How we're doing on our flight. Oh no, clear key, default nav, and oh, I see. I went down to 6 knots. So I kind of stopped right there. So anyway, we'd probably fly over here. You'd have all the distances here for your 45 entry, 2 left-hand turns, and DME. All right. Any questions or comments? Please leave them down below. You feel free to contact me also. There's probably stuff that I would have no doubt that there's some neat techniques out there that I have not incorporated or heard about. So by all means, give a holler if you got something to add. And I appreciate your time. And thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. And take care.